The All-Star break is here, and we're going to ask the question, how are we feeling about these Boston Celtics? Spoiler alert, we think they're pretty good. Let's talk about it right now on the Lockdown Celtics podcast.
Yup. Being down, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamp. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Corrales, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Drew to KP, tap in daily. Primetime dapping D White on the sideline. Raining Jayson, how it started, raising business, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Lockdown Celtics podcast right here on the Lockdown Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and I got you covered Monday through Friday with a free podcast that drops directly to your favorite podcast app. So go ahead there and subscribe. Watch the show on YouTube if you'd like. You can get into the comment section there, have some fun. Share your thoughts with the rest of the Celtics fandom there on the Lockdown Celtics YouTube page or me. I'm John Corrales if you're new to the show. I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've been doing this job for about 20 years at various outlets. So, you know, I've seen a bit. And I've seen the Celtics here get to this all-star break looking pretty good. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm going to bet that the Celtics are pretty good when all is said and done. And I think today's guest will feel the same because it's Tom Westerholm.
No.
Tom, yeah.
They stink.
Yeah. I was trying to set you up for a, positive introduction, but you and your normal negativity have once again ruined this podcast. I don't know why.
Happy All-Star break, man.
Everything good? Feeling good?
Yeah. Yeah. Can't complain.
We left this wide open. We said, how are we feeling about the Celtics at the break? They are, 39-16 now. They are second in the East. They are, it will take a good run over the last bit to get to 60 wins, but they are still capable of getting to 60 wins. Given and we've always felt pretty good. So I think the obvious answer is coming here, but like when you look at the swoon that they went through and kind of like their finish here, is there anything that just kind of like lingers? You sit there and is there anything from that mediocre stretch that you think has the potential to kind of hang around, bite them at an inopportune time? Like, how are you feeling about all of that?
Yeah, I think so. To me, there's nothing really from that swoon that I would worry about aside from just the shooting, right? It's just like if the shooting variance goes against them for a stretch in the playoffs, they're vulnerable. And if the shooting variance doesn't go against them for a stretch in the playoffs, they're going to be really, really hard to beat. And I think we're seeing that now as they bounce back, right? Like we're seeing, Derek White is looks like himself again, and Sam Hauser is making threes, and everybody's making threes. Everybody's hitting their threes again, and the averages, right, suggest that that's gonna continue. Or that at very least they're going to continue to make them at a great enough clip to be really good.
Yeah.
So to me, that's really the only thing where you're like, man, if anything from that swoon, because I think all the defensive question marks, all the effort question marks, all the are they cruising, are they on cruise control right now, question marks that we've seen repeatedly now them crank it up for games that they really want to win.
Yes.
Every time they play Cleveland, they crank it up. Every time they play the Knicks, they crank. Like, not worried about that one bit. Like, I unless the Pelicans make the playoffs in the first round in the Eastern Conference, and then the Celtics have to play a team with 9 wins. And yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be fine once the postseason comes around in terms of effort. I think it just kind of comes down to like, yeah, are they going to make the requisite shots to look like themselves?
So it's funny. You look at The consensus here is the Celtics started well. They had a swoon. They were mediocre. Their shooting has been an issue, and we think they're going to be fine. But like you said, the shooting stuff. So I did a Q&A on Boston Sports Journal, and I was asked about this. The question was laid out. It's like their shooting is down a couple percentage points from last year, and their points per game is down by a few points. And I looked at the numbers and I said, you know what? If they make one more 3-pointer per game, this is the difference between last year and this year. One more 3-pointer per game. That's it. Their shooting percentage, if they had made one more 3-pointer per game up until this point, their percentage would be basically where it was last year. The point differential would be only down by half a point per game. Their net differential would be basically equal. And like, to me, all of the consternation, like if you really want to look at it and distill it down to what's the big difference, if they had just hit one more 3-pointer per game, all of the numbers from last year would kind of be level. Would that have changed any of these wins and losses? Probably not. Maybe a couple of these wins would have been, a couple of these losses would have been wins because, when we say hit one more per game, usually that means hit 5 more in one game and nothing changes in 5 other games. You know what I mean? So maybe one or two of these games would have been wins or not. But for people who are concerned about percentages and it's not quite where it was last year, I look at, the 64 wins was historically good, like the 4th or 5th best record in Celtics history. So I know people want to follow up history with history, but if they follow it up with a 58, 59, 60 win, it's only a few games. Like, that really is not a big deal. And what do a few games come down to? A few bounces, a few shots going in or out? Like, it's not in the NBA, 82 games. If they went from a 64 win team to a 48 win team, well, now we got a problem. Now we got an issue. 64 wins to 59 wins. That means 5 games they just couldn't hit a shot, or 5 games, a Dylan Brooks happened, and so in these moments, it sucks. It really sucks that Dylan Brooks did what he did. It really sucks that some of these guys did what they did. And it sucks that the Celtics couldn't hit certain shots. But when you pull away, you look at it and you say, if it's just one 3-pointer per game and a couple of outlier games, and they really are right back to where they were, you realize like there really isn't that much to worry about.
I think that's one of the big takeaways. I understand the instinct that some people have, like, and I'm not even talking like, your Celtics doomers or whatever. Like, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the instinct that people have to have like concerns about a team and to be like, well, it is a different year. And it is, it's a different season. Some circumstance. I mean, it's basically the same team. So, I mean, you can really only go so far with that argument, but like, it is a different season. There are different circumstances. There's a different level of hunger and intensity with this team. Like, all of that stuff, I understand. I buy the rationale for like being like, well, hang on one second. Are we sure that this team is as good as they were last year? I get that. But I think, yeah, when you talk about, like you're talking about, I think the key thing, which is just taking that big step back and looking at it holistically and being like, okay, yes, different season. However, if you look at the Eastern Conference, if you look at how this team has played against the other teams in the Eastern Conference, if you look at, like we did last podcast, a potential path through their likely Eastern Conference semifinal matchup, their likely Eastern Conference final matchup, assuming nothing goes wrong, or not nothing, but assuming things don't go disastrously wrong and they make it that far, you still see the profile of a team with I think, the best collection of talent pretty handily when you go like top to 7 or 8. You still see a team with a lot of mismatch problems against some of in the good way, against some of their really top competition in the conference. You still see a team that I think is pretty well positioned to make a deep run. And I mean, that's all you can ask for a team that's trying to defend a title, is like be in a position where you can compete to try to do it again, because things can go wrong, but like if you put yourself in the position, then you've done your job.
That's it. We'll continue this. I think the history of this particular Celtics team versus, for example, like the 08 team, I think that's what plays into a lot of how people are reacting. We'll talk about that when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more in a game, you can score a huge deal the next day. Yeah, very simple. When a player scores 50 or more in a game during this season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. So after an epic 50, let's just say Tatum drops 50, you can celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot. It's delivered directly to your door. Or if you need a quick and easy lunch the next day with Dash Pass, you can get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees, reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Or maybe you want to get a watch party together and you can catch the next game with a bunch of friends, or order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount and get ready for more high-scoring action. Sign up for Dash Pass and get ready to save. When a player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off and order the next day. That's up to $10 off. Use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. You must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go sign up for the new Locked On Celtics newsletter. It's at lockedondaily.com. Click on the Locked On Celtics logo. All you do is enter your email. You get an email then every day, Monday through Friday, from me with Celtics, NBA, and fantasy coverage from the Locked On Podcast Network. You get links to Celtics coverage around the league, around the internet. And it's a great way to keep up with the podcast. If you've missed the show here or there, which is fine, I understand it happens sometimes, you can read the newsletter, get caught up. Maybe you decide you want to listen anyway. But go check it out, lockedondaily.com. Click on that Locked On Celtics logo, enter your email, and get the new newsletter. So a lot of people, and I'm judging it on, a lot of online reaction, but still, I think this team's history with Tatum and Brown, they've had a long history of like, get there, didn't quite make it. Get close, didn't quite make it. And then last year they break through. And then this year they go through the normal kind of, I think, post championship and post Olympic kind of like dip, right? They came out strong. They established, like I said, they're 21-5. They established, oh yeah, we're fine. We got this. Okay. We're going to, Porzingis came back and blah, 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 whatever. It happened. I think what happened with fans is they thought, or they think, the Celtics are reverting back to the old ways. Whereas the 08 team with Pierce and Garnett and Ray Allen, first of all, older, and they've established Pierce was a superstar. Kevin Garnett is a generational superstar. Ray Allen is a generational shooter. They had established a long history of these guys are elite, and they just couldn't get the job done because they were on different teams. They couldn't get the job done. They came together here. Boom, got the job done right away. They're older. We get it. We're not going to get too worked up about some lapses or whatever. Now, admittedly, also Twitter wasn't a thing.
Yep.
Social media wasn't a thing. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just saying like I didn't see it, but because it wasn't readily available. And nowadays, maybe more people are like understanding, but it just feels like because those guys came together in Boston, succeeded right away, and had a history of being awesome superstars, whereas Tatum and Brown had their flaws. They grew through the system here in Boston. They've had their failures. They won, and now some of the failures look familiar, and people are like, oh, okay, maybe the championship was the aberration, and it's not like they just grew and they're past it, and this is just normal laying back and relaxing. So I think that has played a role in how people perceive and talk about this team.
I agree. And again, I kind of understand that impulse to wonder that, right? Like, cause like we have a longer history of Tatum and Brown being in that space than we do of them being champions, right?
Yes.
But I also think that, for one thing, I think that undersells what a weight it takes off your shoulders to have won a title. Like, not, and that's not to say that like, that you have to like, that you can like not try as hard to win another one. It's very much not the case. It's just that when you're striving for that first one, there the amount of pressure, the amount of like, am I ever going to win a championship? Am I ever going to do this? And then when you've won one, it's like, okay, I've won one. And now my, talent can shine through, whatever can shine through. Like, I just think that's a big consideration here. And I think, I think one of the things that we've seen from Tatum this year in particular is just the level that he hit last year. He's hitting it a lot this year. Like, even when he's not making shots, he's just hitting that level of like distributor. And like, he's grown into such a malleable superstar who can do so many different things on any given night that it's like, it's just hard to imagine, him, I don't know, kind of being, making those same regressions, I guess. Just doesn't feel super likely to me. I do want to acknowledge that when you were talking about Pierce Garnett and Ray Allen, I think you did Ray Allen a little dirty by being like, this guy was a star. This guy was a generational star. This guy was a shooter. He was a really good shooter. Ray Allen was a star.
Shooter.
He a generational. Ray Allen was a star before he came to Boston.
He was a mega. He really was a superstar. No, he was a superstar. He was a superstar. He was. People forget Ray Allen was like in the dunk contest, and he was like legit.
Absurd player for a long time. Yeah.
All right, fine. All right, fine. I guess that was more of like what he was in Boston.
In Boston, no, for sure.
Yeah, no. Look, it's when you have that history of someone being something, right? And then it changes. You always wonder if, well, is that old thing going to come back? And yeah, there is a question of was the championship just a product of, hey, super motivated, really embarrassed by that loss to Miami. And look, everything came together. Joe caught magic in a bottle. Tatum and Brown sacrificed, like those. Everybody just said, you know what? We're doing this thing. And they did it. And now that they have it, the sacrifices aren't quite there. But I look at how they play, and I consider myself a pretty astute observer of Boston Celtics basketball in general, but especially the Celtics basketball. If they were playing differently, I do a podcast 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week. If they were playing significantly differently, I feel like I would have seen it.
Yep.
I feel like you would have seen it because you are also a pretty astute observer of the Boston Celtics. And like, you're on here, you do takeaways for Boston.com. You are seeing things. If either one of us has seen something that's like, oh no, this is different, one of us would have said something by now. Like, and it's not that I have any motivation to not say it. I have no motivation to protect anybody. I don't have any, like, it's not like any of these guys are a particular source. I'm not a newsbreaker, right? Like, I'm not sitting here. I'm not like Shams, I'm out there just writing my story. I'm an analyst. So I don't need Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown to like me so their agents feed me information. Like, that's not how this works. I don't care. If they do well, I'll say it. If they do poorly, I'll say it. I'm not a fan of either guy. I like both of them in general as human beings. I think they're both good dudes that are really good basketball players that make mistakes from time to time. And my job is to tell you when they make mistakes and when they don't make mistakes. If something was happening that put the Celtics in jeopardy this season, I would, I got things falling down over here. I would have said something by now. You would have said something by now, because it would be important to me to raise a concern. I have not seen a concern. Nothing has jumped out at me to make me go like, ooh, Jaylen's playing this way. Jayson's playing this way. Somebody's going for his. They're not together anymore. Yeah. No, none of that. None of that has happened.
No. Yeah. I mean, even like, we've talked a little bit about how it's like, yeah, Jaylen hasn't quite made the type of strides that he usually makes year to year. We've talked about stuff like that.
Yeah.
We've talked about like, I don't know, energy stuff here and there. But yeah, no, it's like, I mean, you just, again, I just keep coming back to like the way they play when they're locked in, the way that, even like the OKC game, right? Like, it's like you look at, obviously the second half was so ugly, but that first half, you watch that first half, it's like they did every single thing right. And that's how, when they're locked in and they're trying to, and they're trying, right? When they really want a game and they lock in, they're still, I think, the best team in the NBA. Or, I mean, worst case scenario, right there,
they're
like
right there.
The S tier,
which is all you can ask.
Yeah,
which is all you can ask. Let's talk about these other teams, because I think that's the other thing that has colored how people have talked about the Celtics. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on that action other than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout a game, even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback. You can stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. So, you can get in on the live betting if you want to just say, hey, let's have some more fun here. You want to throw a few bucks on the Celtics making a comeback, or the Celtics adding to their lead and winning by more than you thought, or maybe you're watching a different team. You can do that all on the app. That's super easy to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. New FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Make sure you're using the tools that are available to you to set your budget, set your limits. You know what you can afford to lose. This way, if you go cold, you're not setting yourself up to be in a bad spot. We don't want that. We want you to just go have some fun with your disposable income. So if that's $50, $5, whatever it is, set your limit, set your budget. Go to FanDuel.com. You get your shot at $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA Game Night. We're recording this just before the night in the NBA tips off. I will be turning my attention to the NBA games and then hopping on a podcast with Jake Madison, the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast tonight. After the games are over, Jake and I will be talking about all the games in the association. So go check that out. It's a 7-day-a-week podcast. I have the Friday show. I'm not doing that 7 days a week, but we have all of our rotating hosts. So go check that out. It's a great way to keep up with the league. All right, Tom. So you mentioned the OKC Thunder. Losing to the Thunder, a loss to the Cavs in there when Donovan Mitchell went, perfect in the fourth quarter for, it was, I think
one of my better takes from last year was that I was like, I feel like Donovan Mitchell is a monster that people don't quite talk about enough. And then I feel pretty good about that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
The Cavs have won 81.5% of their games. They're 44-10. The Thunder are 44-9. And the Thunder are actually playing tonight. They're playing the Thunder. I mean, they're playing the Timberwolves in the 8:30 game. So they will either be 44-9 or also 44-10.
I believe the Timberwolves are without Anthony Edwards and without Rudy Gobert. So if I were to guess where I think that one's going, yeah.
But if they lose, Tom, if OKC loses to the Timberwolves without Anthony Edwards, and like that would mean they're not capable of winning a championship. That's how it goes, right?
Fraudulent for sure. Yeah,
they're frauds, absolutely. Yeah. So if the Cavs and the Thunder had been having normal seasons and the Celtics weren't 5.5 games behind, they were 1.5 game behind. I've mentioned this in the podcast before. If it didn't look like some teams were running away with the league, I don't think the level of consternation would be there. I think people would just be like, it's a little, hey, good for the Cavs, good for the Thunder. Yeah. I think the noise would still be there because there's always going to be noise. It just wouldn't be as loud as it's been. I don't think the questions would have been.
I think the Cavs and the Thunder have an element of freshness about them too, right? Where it's like,
sure,
yeah, the Celtics obviously are not an old team, but they've been around for even as young guys, they've been around the Eastern Conference Finals and the finals and everything for so long with this group of mid-20s guys that like, if you're looking for like a fresh story, I mean, we've joked about it before. Like if you're looking for a fresh storyline this year, yeah, you want the Cavs, you want the Thunder,
yeah.
You don't want the Celtics. Like I get it. Like it's the exact same team as last year. Like I get it. I believe me. But like, but I think you're exactly right. I think that it's that little push that got the Cavaliers, so far ahead. It's the, which is partly due to the Celtics' little swoon, right? If they don't, even if they, like you said, even if they win a couple more games during that stretch, that makes a huge difference. If they hit, one more 3 a game, what does that add up to in terms of wins? It closes the gap a little bit. Yeah, I think, for a team that just won the title too, you just don't mind that much a gap, like a gap in the standings, as long as it's not huge. And like the Celtics are in second, they're fine. Like it's all fine. They're gonna, I think that's, and again, and like, I don't know how many times we have to say this. That's not to say that the Cavaliers can't beat them. That's not to say that the Thunder can't beat them in a series. It's just there's
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will. And also, there's no reason to believe that the Celtics can't. You know what I mean? Like it's just they're fine.
They're fine. And look, I'm not gonna lie. Like some of this is so influenced by. This is, hold on. Let me get my graphic here because this is my old man yells at clouds.
Love how fast you have that one readily available.
It's right there. It's always on the ready. You never know when old man's going to yell at cloud. This is just where we are, man. As like a society, like everything. It is like if like Goldilocks and the Three Bears happened today. Goldilocks would be like, after the first bowl of porridge, would be like on Instagram Live, being like, yo, I'm at my secret porridge spot. And let me tell you, this is so hot. It's burning my mouth. Do not recommend. This might be the worst porridge I've ever had. And go on and on and on and on. And then leave and then come back after the cold porridge and be like, oh my God, I got new porridge. I sent it back because I was not having that. I got new porridge. And oh my, so cold. Like, can these guys not get it right? Like that's what this is. That's what we are in today. That's what the new 2025 Goldilocks and the Three Bears story would be. Whenever like every Celtics loss is the worst thing in the world, and people just want to be so dramatic about it because they're whatever. They're bored. They want to troll on the internet. People just want the reactions. So I don't even think that some of the things that we're reacting to are even genuine reactions, because people have those reactions online. The opinion makers on sports talk radio and those, they have to have the hot takes. The Kendrick Perkins of the world have to have like scorching hot takes. And so you can't just be like, I'm the only one, like we're the only ones who exist in a plane of like, no, it's actually fine. Don't worry about it. You don't have to go crazy. Like we're trying to make sense of it. You do not have to be like, everything's not the end of the world. Yeah. So I definitely think that for all of the things that we've talked about that are legitimate, there is a factor of whatever the volume actually is, like on a scale of 1 to 10, the noise around the Celtics and their mediocre stretch was probably legitimately at like a 3 or a 4. But because of social media and hot takes, it probably like sounded like it was up at a 7. And I really don't think that and listen, I think every single Locked On Celtics listener is probably in the same vein as us, because you don't want the hot takes. You're listening to this show because you don't want the hot takes. So I definitely think there is an element of all of that here.
So salute to you guys. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, but I think you're right. And I think, I mean, it's the element of like it's an attention economy, right? So it's like, the loudest voice gets the most attention, and like that just is what it is. My pitch to you is that once a podcast, we just say the most egregious thing we can, so that you can get so that you can like, put it as like on like the YouTube. Yeah. Like, so that like on the YouTube, like thumbnail, you can write something just completely egregious and insane. And then we can both like do this one time, so that like you have that for your YouTube thumbnail.
Jayson Tatum sucks now.
Yeah, there you go. And like now you can like, can you believe that he said that? Like, yeah.
Those are going to be our thumbnails, by the way.
Yeah. I kind of figured. Yeah. So there you go. Like, and then,
should we pause? Should we end this podcast by pausing for our most dramatic thumbnail about the Celtics sucking? Okay. Those were our thumbnails for the podcast.
Yeah, it was good.
That's going to be, that's great, because I know exactly when that happened and go right to that. It's both in the same spot. So, yeah, man, like, I know it's tough. Like we sat here for 33 minutes going, no, Celtics are fine. The Celtics are fine. It's okay. Celtics are fine. 7 of 8, was it 10 of 13? They're right there. They've won 71% of their games. That's an incredible pace. It really is an incredible pace for an NBA team. For a team, and with all of the stuff that legitimately has not gone well.
Right. And I think the fun thing, if you're a Celtics fan, which presumably if you're listening to this, you are, is that what this is setting up is a really fun playoff run. Like it's going to be interesting. Whatever happens, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be, it's going to go. I mean, knocking on wood for health and everything. It's going to go several rounds. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a fun end of the year.
Yeah. I'm not making any vacation.
And I said this at the end of last year too. And my whole thing with this team is like, if you're a Celtics fan, really enjoy this. Cause like, this is special. This is a special team. This is a special group. This doesn't happen often. Like this takes a long time to build up to, and the Celtics needed a lot of things to go right to build up to this point. They needed like, the Celtics managed to get to nail their superstar guy that they got. The superstar they got was the combination of Paul Pierce and LeBron James. That is like Jayson. Like this is a guy who can score in isolation, who hits threes, who defends, but who now can pass like LeBron. Like, yeah, like this is a special time for Celtics fans. Enjoy this.
Yeah. We could do a whole. I took a break from the Jayson Tatum stuff because this whole week has been Jayson Tatum is awesome. We could do a whole show next week on like, is this the best Jayson Tatum has ever played? Because I touched on that last show. It might be.
Yeah.
And Jaylen Brown is pretty damn good too, you know. And so is Derek White, and so is Kristaps Porzingis. And
Doesn't come around often.
yeah, seriously, enjoy it. Absolutely. Tom, I always enjoy talking to you.
Appreciate you, man. I enjoy talking to you.
All right. And I enjoy saying goodbye, Tom. Just because it means it's time to wrap up the show. And thank you all for listening. Thank you all for subscribing. If you subscribe, the podcast shows up directly on your favorite podcasting app. We are on every podcast app. So make sure you subscribe. And, you know, hey, it's Friday. It's Valentine's Day. So if you have a Valentine, I hope you guys enjoy the day. You know, it's a nice Friday. No basketball. Just enjoy some time with your Valentine. If you don't have a Valentine, I'll be your Valentine. I choose you. And I hope you choose the Celtics, Locked On Celtics podcast. And I hope you help your friends do the same by sharing the podcast, telling everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.